Buenos días, mis estudiantes. It's time for Module 1B, the second part to your very first module. Hola, ¿cómo te llamas? We continue to be in the same module. We're moving on to the third instructional video. This is going to be the instruction for Study Plan Section 2, en la clase, in the class. Remember, it's important to watch any instructional videos that are posted before a given study plan section. So you're also going to watch the next instructional video, video 4, which has to do with numbers 0 to 31, before you get into study plan section 2. Taking a look at the objetivos, the objectives for this study plan section, to identify common objects in the classroom. Specifically, vocabulario for en la mochila, in the backpack, en la clase, in the class, and en el salón de clase, in the classroom. Notice something. You see some highlighted words and letters. And what this indicates are the beginnings of our studies for masculine and feminine nouns. If you look at vocabulario, the noun for vocabulary in Spanish, you'll see that that word ends in O. That is generally significant in that that word is masculine. Usually nouns that end in O are masculine. So the way to say the in front of a masculine noun is el vocabulario. Contrary to that, we see the word mochila, the noun mochila that ends in A. Most nouns that end in A are feminine. The way to say the in front of mochila is la mochila, el vocabulario. Clase is a masculine or feminine? You tell me. You got it. It is a feminine noun. You don't have a giveaway here at the end. It ends in E. That could be masculine or feminine. So you simply memorize that noun as la clase. La clase. So eventually, after you say that enough times, el clase sounds completely odd. And that way you'll remember that it is feminine. What about salon? Is the word for room masculine or feminine? You got it. It's masculine. Again, it's not A or O. There's no giveaway at the end. You memorize el salón, el salón. And children that are learning words when they're young, when they're growing up, they learn that el or la in front of a noun, and that tells them it's masculine or feminine. Now that becomes important when we add other words to that. For example, if I want to say the red backpack, the word for red is rojo, but that adjective will be roja. It changes because it's a feminine word. So other things that go with our structures will be affected by our nouns being masculine or feminine. So for now, just make note of the fact as to whether the noun is masculine or feminine by the ending and or by the el or la in front. Now the other piece that we'll be working with in this video is the verb I. Not like hey. You don't say hey like hey for horses. If you remember from your video on the alphabet and your work with the alphabet, the H in front of a noun is silent. So this starts with the A sound, I. And you also hear the E sound of the Y, I. And that means there is or there are. We will get into that in this video. As we go into learning about vocabulary, let's talk about the rules for pronunciation and stress. The very first piece that you want to keep in mind always as you're pronouncing words are the vowels. Let's pronounce the vowels. Ready? Let's go. A, repita por favor. A, E, I, O, U. Like goo. One more time. A, E, I, O, U. Say them with me a couple times, all 5 together. A, E, I, O, U. Very short, staccato. A, E, I, O, U. One more time. A, E, I, O, U. Keep that logged in your mind when we go through the vocabulary, how to pronounce only using these 5 vowel sounds. Could not be easier. Now let's talk about the rules of stress. The stressed syllable rule. If a word ends in a vowel, N or S, The natural stress is on the next to the last syllable. Let's take a look at some examples. Repita, por favor. Mochila. Mochila. That noun ends in A, natural stress, next to the last vowel syllable. Next word, repita, examen. Examen. Vowel or the noun ends in N. So the next to the last syllable, where the vowel is stressed. Examen. The next one, repita, papeles. Papeles. Noun ends in S. The stressed syllable is the next to the last. If a word ends in another consonant other than N or S, the natural stress is on the last syllable. Repita, por favor. Marcador. Marcador. That noun ends in R. It's not N or S, so the natural stress is on the last syllable. Repita, papel. Papel. Ending in L. Natural stress, last syllable. Repita, reloj. Reloj. Ends in J, natural stress, last syllable. Accents have a couple of purposes. They change the stressed syllable. They change the spelling. If you write a word without an accent, that word is misspelled if it's supposed to have an accent. And accents can change the meaning of words. Let's take a look. Repita, por favor, lápiz. Lápiz. The word for pencil. It ends in Z, so the natural stress should be lápiz. But that word doesn't sound right. It is like saying instead of pencil, it's like us saying pencil. That would sound kind of odd. So there's a stress, an accent over that first A. The stress goes on the first syllable in that case. Say it one more time. Repita, lápiz. Let's move on to the next word. Repita, esta. Esta. Está. Está. Not only is it misspelled if the accent is not included on the second version, it changes the word. Esta means this. It's a demonstrative adjective. Esta mesa, this table. Está is a conjugation of the verb estar, to be, and it means is. So you could say, ¿Cómo está? Está bien. Changes the entire meaning and, of course, the sound. Look at the next word. Repita, él. Él. They both sound exactly the same. In the written form, él with an accent means he. Él without an accent means the. Written form, very important. Sound and speech, they sound the same. And look at the final example. Repita, sí. Sí. Sound exactly the same. Sí with an accent means yes. Sí without an accent means if. So very important in context, of course, and in spelling when you're writing. Let's do some práctica. These are long words. How are you ever going to pronounce them? Well, look at your vowels. Let's say them one more time. A, E, I, O, U. And let's just go through our words slowly. Ready? One syllable at a time. I, ma, ji, na, sion. Imaginación. Imaginación. Another way to tackle a long word is start at the back and go a syllable at a time back to the front. Let's practice that. Repita. Sion. Nación. Ginación. Imaginación. Imaginación, the word for imagination. Let's look at the next word for unfortunately. Let's take it slowly. Repita. Desafortunadamente. A little bit quicker. Desafortunadamente. Our noun ends in an E, so natural stress is going to be next to the last. Our stress here was on the accent, always takes precedent. Let's go from back to front. Ready? Mente, da mente, nadamente, afortunadamente, fortunadamente, desafortunadamente, desafortunadamente. Maybe that helped you. The next word, stress is going to be over the accent. Let's go through each syllable slowly. Repita. Antipático. A little quicker. Antipático. And last time, antipático. What you see is what you get in Spanish. You should be able to read a long word without any problem. Just take your time, starting either from front to back or back to front, and you'll be able to do it. These vowel sounds never change. Muy bien, let's begin with el vocabulario. Repita, en la mochila. En la mochila. Repita, la mochila. La mochila. Backpack. El diccionario. El diccionario. Dictionary. Now this word is a cognate. It's very close to its English word. So there's a real temptation to say dictionary, right? But remember the I sound in Spanish is I. Diccionario. One more time, repita, el diccionario. Repita, la computadora. La computadora. Computer. Repita, la calculadora. La calculadora. Slow it down if it's tough. Calculadora. You really have to open your mouth and enunciate to get all these vowels out. Calculadora. Muy bien. Repita. El teléfono. Very tempting to say telephono because our stress in English is telephone. Notice where the stress is. Repita. Teléfono. Teléfono. One more time. Teléfono. Notice all the cognates. These words very similar to English. Repita. El libro. El libro. And you can think that you find books in a library. That can help you remember this is book. El libro. So, ¿cómo se dice backpack? Starts with an M. Repita, la mochila. Dictionary. Repita, el diccionario. And important, say the before these. You're memorizing whether it's masculine or feminine by memorizing whether la or el go with each noun. ¿Cómo se dice computer? Repita, la computadora. ¿Cómo se dice? How do you say? Calculator. Repita, la calculadora. ¿Cómo se dice? Telephone. Remember the stress. Repita, el teléfono. And ¿cómo se dice book? Repita, el libro. Let's say each one more time. Repita, la mochila, el diccionario, la computadora, la calculadora, el teléfono, el libro. Now a little bit of a game to get you thinking and to get you pronouncing. One of these pictures is going to disappear and I'll say, ¿Qué no está? What isn't here? And you will simply tell me what picture has disappeared. So I think I gave you a little clue there a second ago. ¿Qué no está? La computadora. Mira, look, mira. Ready? Here goes another one. Mira, look. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la mochila. ¿Qué no está? Repita, el teléfono. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la calculadora. ¿Qué no está? Repita, el libro. ¿Y qué no está? Repita, el diccionario. In the next slide, the words are going to slowly scroll up. First the picture, and then the word. So as you see the picture, try to call out the word before the word actually appears. Here we go. La computadora. El libro. El diccionario. La calculadora. La mochila. El teléfono. Muy bien, let's move on to a few more words and then we'll put a couple of things together. Repita, por favor, el marcador. El marcador. Marker. That's stress on the last syllable because the noun ends in R. Repita, el cuaderno. El cuaderno. Notebook. Repita, el bolígrafo. Notice the stressed syllable. El bolígrafo. Pen. And you'll also hear in Spanish the shortened version of this, el bolí, chopping off the ending there. It's like us shortening photograph to photo. Same idea. Repita, por favor, el lápiz. Notice the stress. Repita, el lápiz. Pencil. Repita, la carpeta. La carpeta. Folder. When I was teaching my middle schoolers, I would say, imagine a whole house lined with folders on the floor, like a carpet of folders. Try to get an interesting hook to memorize vocabulary. Repita, la carpeta. Repita, el papel. El papel. The paper. Repita, la hoja de papel. La hoja de papel, which means the leaf or the sheet of paper. Hoja is actually what you would call a leaf on a tree, an hoja. La hoja de papel. Get that ch sound in for that J, and the H is silent. One more time. Hoja. Hoja. Let's see what you remember. ¿Cómo se dice marker? Repita, el marcador. ¿Cómo se dice notebook? Repita, el cuaderno. ¿Cómo se dice pen? Repita, el bolígrafo. ¿Cómo se dice pencil? Repita, el lápiz. Folder. Repita, la carpeta. ¿Cómo se dice paper? Repita, el papel. And ¿cómo se dice the leaf or the sheet of paper? Repita, la hoja de papel. Let's say each one more time. Repita, por favor, el marcador. El cuaderno. El bolígrafo. El lápiz. La carpeta. El papel. La hoja de papel. Now one is going to disappear. Mira, look, and tell me which one is gone. ¿Qué no está? El marcador. Mira. ¿Qué no está? Repita, el papel. ¿Qué no está? Repita, el lápiz. ¿Qué no está? Repita, el bolígrafo. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la carpeta. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la hoja de papel. ¿Y qué no está? Repita, el cuaderno. Now you know the next slide. They're going to start to scroll by. Try to call out the word before you see it. El marcador. El bolígrafo. la carpeta, la hoja de papel, el cuaderno, el lápiz, el papel. Now la práctica, what do you have in your backpack? This is the picture that you're going to see when you go into the study plan section. And the question that I'm going to be asking you is, ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? What do you have in your backpack? And your response is going to be, en mi mochila tengo, in my backpack I have, un or una, whatever that item might be. Now, we're changing it up a little bit. Instead of saying the in front of the item, because it would be kind of odd to answer, what do you have in your backpack? I have the calculator. I have the pen. Really? Do you have the pen of pens, the calculator of calculator? Generally, we speak like this. I have a calculator. I have a pencil. So in order to say that, un is how you say a or an, because depending on the word, I have a pencil, I have an apple. It might change in English, but un means a or an in front of a masculine noun. So for example, repita por favor, un libro, a book, un cuaderno, a notebook. Una would then be the masculine, or I'm sorry, the feminine way to say a or an in front of a feminine noun. Repita, una mochila, una carpeta. You could also say, and this is just for future reference because I believe there's only one of each item in the backpack, but if you had more than one, you could actually put the number there. En mi mochila tengo dos lápices. And we'll get into plurals in the future. Yo en mi mochila yo tengo dos bolígrafos, etc. So let's look at a modelo. I will ask the question, ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? And then I'll give a number. Dos. And you can see that 2 is actually a dictionary. They've pulled up a dictionary there on the computer. So how would you say, in my backpack, I have a dictionary? En mi mochila tengo un diccionario. Tengo un diccionario. So you remembered el diccionario. You change that el to un to say I have a dictionary. Let's see how you do. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila número 3? How would you say, in my backpack, I have a computer? En mi mochila tengo una computadora. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila número 4? I should have heard you say, en mi mochila tengo una calculadora. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila 5? En mi mochila tengo un teléfono. Muy bien. Continuing, ¿qué tienes en tu mochila? Número 6. En mi mochila tengo un libro. And hopefully I'm just looking at this. You weren't too confused about the phone and the calculator being the same thing. One and the same these days, right? And let's continue. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila número 7? En mi mochila tengo un marcador. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila número 8? En mi mochila tengo un cuaderno. I have a notebook. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila número 9? En mi mochila tengo un bolígrafo. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila número 10? En mi mochila tengo un lápiz. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? Número 11. En mi mochila tengo una carpeta. Y finalmente, ¿qué tienes en tu mochila? Número 12. Two versions here for 12. En mi mochila tengo un papel. O, en mi mochila tengo una hoja de papel. Muy bien. Let's move on to the next batch of vocabulario en la clase, in the class. Repita, por favor, la pared. La pared. Wall. So maybe you can think of a pair of walls. Maybe that will help you. Noun ends in D, stresses last syllable. Repita, el estudiante. El estudiante. The student. Notice the article, the is masculine, el. So this is telling you that this student is male. Look at the other version, la estudiante. Repita, la estudiante. The word for student is exactly the same. The only way that you can tell that you're talking about a female student is what? You got it. The article for the la gives it away that you mean the female student instead of the male student. Repita, el reloj. And that h, a little soft h at the end for the J. El reloj. The clock. Masculine. Repita, el proyector. El proyector. Projector. Natural stress on the last syllable. Very similar to the English. So, ¿cómo se dice the wall? Repita, la pared. The student who's male. Repita, el estudiante. The female student. Repita, la estudiante. ¿Cómo se dice the clock? Repita, el reloj. ¿Cómo se dice the projector? Repita, el proyector. Let's say them each one more time. Repita, la pared. El estudiante. La estudiante. El reloj. El proyector. One disappeared. Que no está. Repita, el proyector. Que no está. Repita, la estudiante. Que no está. Repita, la pared. Que no está. Repita, el reloj. Que no está. Repita, el estudiante. Call it out. La estudiante. El proyector. La pared. El estudiante. And el reloj. Did I say la estudiante or el for the first one? I can't remember. Hopefully I said la estudiante for the female. Continuing, repita, la mesa. La mesa. Table. Repita, el pupitre. El pupitre. Student desk, a small desk. Repita, la cortina. La cortina. Very similar to the English word for curtain. Repita, la ventana. La ventana. Window. So think of a vent, the wind going in and out through the vent. La ventana. Repita, el profesor. El profesor. The teacher who's male. And look at the difference now. Repita, la profesora. La profesora. So unlike estudiante with no change in the last letter, profesor adds an A, profesora, to become the feminine version for teacher. ¿Cómo se dice the table? Repita, la mesa. The student desk starts with the letter P, P. Repita el pupitre. ¿Cómo se dice curtain? Close to that English word. Repita la cortina. ¿Cómo se dice window? Think of the clue, the vent. Repita la ventana. ¿Cómo se dice male teacher? Repita el profesor. And female teacher. Repita la profesora. Take a look. Mira, look. One will disappear. ¿Qué no está? Repita el profesor. ¿Qué no está? Repita el pupitre. ¿Qué no está? Repita la profesora. ¿Qué no está? Repita la mesa. ¿Qué no está? Repita la ventana. ¿Qué no está? Repita la cortina. Call it out. La ventana. La profesora. La mesa. La cortina. El profesor. El pupitre. Let's put this one together. And the question now is going to be ¿Qué hay en la clase? Here's that verb that I told you we'd get into at the very beginning of this video presentation, the little word I, which means there is, there are. In a question, it means is there, are there. So it can mean all of those things, that little word I. It's a verb. So what is there in the class? Your response to this is en la clase hay. In the class there is un or una. And remember the meaning for un and una, a or an, in front of a masculine or feminine word. And in the future, if you wanted to say, well, actually, if you counted them out, you could say these in numbers. En la clase hay dos estudiantes. Hay cinco estudiantes. Okay, but for this purpose, we're going to stick with the un and una. Modelo. Número uno. I'll ask the question, ¿Qué hay en la clase? You'll look at número uno and you'll see that's wall. So tell me, in the class, there is a wall. En la clase hay una pared. And you need to remember if it was el or la pared. Try to think back. Let's go. ¿Qué hay en la clase número dos? En la clase hay un estudiante. ¿Qué hay en la clase? Oh, and I forgot about this. I added this little piece. If you wanted to say some, you simply take the un, and for a masculine noun that's plural, you would say unos. En la clase hay unos estudiantes. There are some students. And this would be for a group that would be masculine or masculine and feminine. We'll talk about that in the future. Plural groups defaults to the masculine if it's a mixed group. So to say in the class there are some students, you change your noun to the plural estudiantes, and un becomes unos to mean some. That's a lesson for down the road, but we're just touching on it today. Let's continue. ¿Qué hay en la clase número tres? En la clase hay una estudiante. Same thing. If you make the noun plural, estudiantes, and you change the una to unas, that is the way to say some in front of a feminine noun. En la clase hay unas estudiantes. Let's continue. ¿Qué hay en la clase número cuatro? En la clase hay un reloj. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 5? En la clase hay un proyector. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 6? En la clase hay una mesa. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 7? En la clase hay un pupitre, student desk. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 8? En la clase hay una cortina, a curtain. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 9? It's peeking through there. En la clase hay una ventana. Y finalmente, ¿qué hay en la clase 10? En la clase hay un profesor. No hay profesora. So there isn't a female teacher. When you use no and you make that sentence negative, you remove the un or una. It sounds sort of, cave person-ish. There isn't teacher, but that's just the way that works in Spanish. You just don't say un or una. You just say no hay profesora, no female teacher. Final batch of vocabulary. En el salón de clase, in the classroom. Some articles you will see around the room. Let's go. Repita, la luz. La luz. The light. Repita, el mapa. What? Wait a second. This is a noun that ends in A. I don't get it. It's masculine, the? Well, there are exceptions. Map, the word for map in Spanish, mapa, happens to be a masculine word that ends in A. So you do indeed say el mapa. You just need to memorize it. Repita, por favor, el mapa. El mapa. Repita, la pizarra. La pizarra, which means board. I would always say to my students, just think of throwing a pizza right up there on that chalkboard, on that whiteboard. La pizarra. Repita, la tiza. La tiza. Chalk. Tiza. Repita, la puerta. La puerta. Door. So think of a port, going in and out of a port like it's a doorway. La puerta. Pronounce each vowel. Puerta. What you see is what you get. Repita, la silla. La silla. The LL combination is pronounced like a Y, like a Y. La silla. And repita, la basura. La basura. Garbage, garbage can. Think of a basket, right? La basura, garbage can. Finalmente, el escritorio. Repita, el escritorio. Escritorio. So think of a scribe who does writing, and that word is in there. It has to do with writing. The word to write is escribir, the verb. So repita, el escritorio. What do you remember? ¿Cómo se dice light? Starts with L, like light. Repita, la luz. ¿Cómo se dice the map? Repita, el mapa. Ah, did you remember? Masculine word that ends in an A? Irregular. ¿Cómo se dice board? Whiteboard, chalkboard. Repita, la pizarra. Did you remember throwing the pizza up there to try to remember that one? ¿Cómo se dice chalk? Repita, la tiza. ¿Cómo se dice door? Repita, la puerta. Seat. Repita, la silla. You could also say chair. The translation. ¿Cómo se dice desk? Repita, el escritorio. And ¿cómo se dice wastebasket? Garbage can. Repita, la basura. Let's say them one more time. Repita, la luz, el mapa, la pizarra, la tiza, la puerta, la silla, el escritorio, la basura. Take a look, mira, and one is going to disappear. Que no está. Oops, I forgot that part. I forgot to load that one in there. So they'll just scroll up and call them out before they disappear. Here we go. La silla. El mapa. La basura. La pizarra. La puerta. La luz. La tiza. El escritorio. And let's wrap it up. Once again, we'll ask the question ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase? You're going to answer with en el salón de clase hay. In the classroom there is or there are. Un or una. Maybe it's plural. You could say unos or unas. En el salón de clase hay unos or unas and those items. The second one here, sorry, this should be unas. It should look like this, unas. Okay, I did a copy there, but it's going to be the feminine version. So, ¿qué hay en el salón de clase? The modelo número 1. En el salón de clase hay una luz. You can see there are more than one, so you could also say en el salón de clase hay unas luces. Don't worry about the spelling of the plural. We'll get to that another day. Let's go. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 2? En el salón de clase hay un mapa. Masculine, remember? ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 3? En el salón de clase hay una pizarra. And of course, by the way, you could chop off the front of this. You could just say, hay una pizarra. That's a complete sentence. That's fine. I'm just having you practice speaking. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 4? En el salón de clase hay una tiza, or unas tizas, some chalks. Unas tizas. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 5? En el salón de clase hay una puerta. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 6? Sorry, I didn't change the number. Número 6, 6. En el salón de clase hay una silla. O en el salón de clase hay unas sillas. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 7? And it's pointing down to the garbage can, just FYI. En el salón de clase hay una basura. Now I added something here. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 8? En el salón de clase hay un escritorio. Muy bien, it's el fin, the end of instructional video 3 for module 1B, that's study plan section 2. It's time now to access instructional video 4. Learn your numbers, brush up on those, the numbers 0 to 31, and then you're going to be ready to go at it and get into study plan section 2. Adios, mis estudiantes. See you soon.